This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll be making 3 textured cake designs. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. Our first texture for our cakes is a nice little horizontal texture. And you can see we get these nice ridges in our cake. It's got lots of movement and depth and gives us kind of a bit of a nice structured feel, but it's also a little loose and free. The first texture we're going to tackle is horizontal lines. For this, we're using our turntable. It's a must for this one. And our offset spatula. You can see it's the one with that nice blunt end there. And that's going to allow us to create beautiful lines on our cake. We're going to give our cake that's already prepared and chilled a thick coating of extra frosting. You can use your spatula to do that, or you can use something like your bowl scraper. And then we're going to hold our spatula steady and level and just dig that tip right into the frosting. When you turn your turntable, it's going to dig a little line into the side of your cake. When you get all the way around, you're just going to kind of taper your pressure off gently. You can remove any excess frosting, and then we're going to reposition and move that spatula up a space and repeat. And we're going to go all the way until we get up the side of the cake. We've got our cake out, and I've got some extra nice warm buttercream. My cake is nice and firm. I've filled between my layers, given it a nice smooth coating of white buttercream, and now we're just going to put on a nice thick layer. Just going to work all the way around my cake. It doesn't need to be even or neat. I've got my layer of buttercream on there, and I'm just going to start down here at the bottom. Keep that spatula nice and kind of level, and I'm locking my arm into the side of my body just to help keep it steady. And I'm going to go all the way around, and you can see that digs in. Just going to scrape off my excess and now move up the side of my cake. Just keep your arm nice and steady. You can balance yourself on your turntable. You can lock your elbow into the side of your body. And just when you've finished, gone all the way around, just kind of return that excess buildup into your bucket, so you're not building up a ton on the tip of your spatula. And you can see we've started to put a nice texture on the side of our cake. One of the things we can do with this is do them nice and even. So think evenly spaced out. Or you can vary up the pattern. So think about doing some of them closer together and on top of each other for just a little variation. So it depends on whether you want everything nice and neat or if you want a little variety. And to begin with, variety is probably easier to achieve. And the thicker you lay on your buttercream, the thicker your little horizontal ridges will be. So just keep that in mind. When you get to the top, a nice final pass will finish things up. And if you've got any excess, you can just do what you would normally do there on the top of your cake to make it nice and neat. You can even take that texture onto the top surface of your cake if you like, but it looks perfectly fine just as it is. Our next texture is our diagonal. This is a pretty easy one to approach if you've never done anything like this before. We're mixing up some long and short strokes for a really kind of high drama swirling design. It works for a lot of things, anything that's nature themed, if you're looking to do stuff with water or storms. It has a lot of movement to it that, depending on what color you choose, can kind of give you certain implications. So it's a nice one that you can do that doesn't require a turntable if you don't have one, and doesn't necessarily require a super steady hand if you're still learning. Next up is our diagonal texture. For this one, we're also going to be using our offset spatula. Your turntable is optional. We're going to have our cake up on ours just so that it's easy to work on, but know that you can do this one without the turntable. We're going to use that same method where we're going to apply a nice thick layer of buttercream to our cake that's already frosted and chilled, and we're going to draw diagonal lines in it. So think about scraping that tip on a diagonal across your cake. Now we can do all long lines and think doing them right next to each other, same angle, for a nice consistent even look. Or if you want to do even easier, just do short segments. So think about pulling and kind of tapering off your pressure at the end, and you can do some nice little short segments that give it really a lot of texture and movement and a nice flow. And you can even mix the two together for a third kind of alternate style as well. We've got our cake ready for our diagonal texture, and we've covered it with that thick layer of buttercream, just like we did in our horizontal texture. And we can just draw nice little diagonal swipes. Now, if I want to get rid of that buttercream on the tip, I can just swipe it back into my container, or I can use it to my advantage for a nice buildup at the bottom of my little swipes. And you can see I can do long ones, short ones, or combo them together. I'm going to do short ones. I like to kind of start up at the top third and just gently swipe up. So I get those nice little tails. They help to clean everything up and give you that nice little bit of drama. So think about digging in a little more at the bottom and relaxing your pressure as you swipe away. Now this one is easier to do on a turntable, but you can see I can do it without turning. I'm mostly turning right now just to make it a little easier on myself and also so that you all can see what I'm doing. So this is one where you can give yourself those nice kind of dug in lines without actually using a turntable if you don't already have one. So I'm just going to work my way around my cake in a nice pattern, and I might occasionally do one that goes the full length. It only took me a few minutes to work my way around my cake. Just go nice and slow until you get right back to where you started. You can give it a once over if you've got any places where you have any super thick buildup, or maybe there's a little curl of buttercream you don't like, give it a nice little extra swipe. And if you've got a nice buildup on the top, you can just gently use the blade of your spatula to clean that up. If it's looking nice and artistic, those little buildups of frosting, you can always leave them in place if you like that better. And if you want to, you can give a thick layer of buttercream on the top and do a nice spiral to the center. You can keep that texture going over the side if you want to, but a lot of times I like to leave them plain for any kind of toppers, decorations, or writing. Our final texture is our soft spackle. And I like this one because it's really wild, loose, and kind of free. It has a low profile, so it has a little less drama and depth to it than some of the others that we've done. And it has a much different feel. This one reminds me of things like textured concrete or the surfaces of rocks, and it's a great one to play with in your designs, and it's super easy to replicate. And finally, we have our soft spackle texture. That's just what I call it. You can call it anything you like. I just use soft in reference to the fact that it's a little lower profile, so think a little less drama to this one. There's not going to be as much depth to the texture on it. And the only thing we're going to really need is that spatula that we've been using for our two others. Turntable in this case, totally optional. If you don't have a turntable, you might want to raise your cake up a little on top of something, like a cake pan or something else, just to give it a little extra height and make it easier to work on. But that's the only suggestion I would give you if you don't have a turntable. We're going to use the blade of our spatula to apply just a thin layer of buttercream and a little patch. Think irregular shape is fantastic. And then we're going to pull across it, typically on the edges, in different directions to give it a little motion and a little texture. And I think of it kind of like almost like something that I would see in concrete or stucco, where it has just a little bit of texture to it and a little movement. It's a little angular. And we're going to repeat this all the way around our cake, and it's going to give it just a little bit of interest without being too eye-catching or having too much depth, and it's going to have maybe a slight almost like industrial feel to it. And that's going to give us a nice third option for a texture that we can easily put on our cake as a beginner. We're going to start on our soft spackle texture now, and I've got a cake. It's already iced, nice, smooth, firm layer of buttercream. It's chilled up, it's been in the refrigerator, so it's gonna be easy to work on. And you can see I've got a little bit of buttercream, not a lot, on the back of my spatula, and I'm just gonna use this to swipe on. Nice, gentle pressure, irregular shape. So you can see it gets that little bit of texture, and then I'm gonna move in more than one direction. So think about giving 2 or 3 swipes, and that can, you can see, changes that a little bit. We've added a little bit on top, we've smoothed it down a little bit at that angle, and it gives us this nice kind of irregular look, like someone's gone over it with a trowel. Now I'm gonna load up a little more buttercream. So get a little more soft buttercream on my spatula, and I'm gonna go right next to this and just keep going. So think about going at funny little angles, smearing on some excess. It doesn't have a lot of depth, but you can see it gives it a lot of texture, and it has a much different feel than the ones we've been doing. I'm going to keep working all the way around my cake. I prefer kind of to go over a whole section and then move on to the next one just to make sure I'm hitting every spot. And it only took me a few minutes to work my way around my cake and get back to the beginning. I just want to go over this last little bit and fill in any little blank spaces I have. You can give your cake a spin if you're on a turntable, or just turn it around manually and just give it a nice eyeball to make sure you haven't missed any spots, or there's nothing you want to correct or fix, or just add a little extra swipe to if you need to. And then I'm just going to take a moment and gently clean up the top. And this again is one where you can take the same process and repeat it on the top of your cake if you want to. Very easy to do for a nice finished polished look, or you can leave it blank if you're planning to do something like writing or use a cake topper. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It truly supports our channel and helps us share more in-depth cake decorating lessons. Want to level up your skills? Our yearly membership has certificate programs from beginner and up. Learn more at cakedecorating school.com.